Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. This is Roger Knecht, your host, and we are here as a podcast to help you as owners of accounting professions to actually go out there and offer quality accounting services and get paid what you're worth. This podcast is committed to providing episodes each and every week with the experts to address topics that range from your tech stack and technology that you're using to do the work, marketing and selling, pricing, client relations, and so much more. So I invite you to actually check out each of our episodes. In today's episode, we're going to have a special guest. It's Justin Hatch. And Justin's someone I've known for a little bit. He's someone that I think you're going to be quite pleased with. He is the co-founder and CEO of Reach Reporting. Reach Reporting happens to be a company that is helping accounting professionals focus on the financial reports that they provide for their clients. Justin is an industry expert in business management, specializing in software development and financial reporting. He freely shares his rich entrepreneurial experiences to help others succeed. And that's one of the reasons why we have him on the show. Justin's passions lie in providing accountants and business owners the tools they need to uncover and understand valuable insights buried in the rows and columns of financial statements. As a business owner, Justin knows how essential it is to understand the business's finances in order to sell a business, acquire investors, or create a solid business strategy. So, Justin, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks a ton. I appreciate that a lot.
This is going to be quite fun. So, first of all, we're going to get into some personal things, some professional things, but we'll start with the professional. Starting a business, being a co-founder of a company, tell me, why'd you start the company? Let's just start there.
It's just such a bad idea. Don't if anybody ever comes up to you and offers to start a software with you, just tell them heck no, and you refuse to do it. We it's interesting when Reach started. We started out kind of as a BI tool.
Okay. And
way back. And we wanted to provide a service to startups, but not just to startups, but to startups who had a limited understanding of what was actually happening in their business.
So when you say BI tool, for my listeners, tell them what BI stands for.
Yeah. It's a dirty word for business intelligence. And, we started back in 2015. And it was when this wave of all of these BI platforms were starting. And we didn't even know that we were just part of this wave. But what happened was a couple of years in, we started to get accountants reaching out to us saying, hey, you guys are really close to something that would be really, really powerful in our industry. Would you be interested in talking more about it? And at first, the response is, of course, no. I've read Grit, and I've read Nail It Then Scale It. All these books, and I'm going to stick with what I got, and I'm not going to change. I'm not going to deviate. Well, It didn't take very many accountants to come up and say, hey, there's a real market here, and we're desperate for a solution.
I like that you were, one, open-minded, but that you were listening to that. That's amazing. I think that's huge to say for you. So I'm curious, in being the co-founder, are you like the programmer? I mean, what element did you bring to the co-founding of the company?
Yeah, so I started the company, and I started bringing our founding team in over the first year. Ryan and I. Ryan came in, just a couple months after it started. Uh-huh. And so Ryan and I have been in the trenches since the beginning, but not development. Both of us are actually kind of business guys.
Okay.
I came from the oil and gas world. I was a VP for a NASDAQ oil and gas company. And honestly, we just saw that there was this big need. We pushed towards it, and the rest is this crazy history.
So I've obviously met you on a few occasions at conferences. So going to conferences, having a booth there and talking to accounting professionals, I'm curious, what is it that you're hearing from the accounting profession that you feel you're able to meet? What is it you're providing that is perhaps missing?
So that was the hardest thing. And we were especially lucky because we didn't go into this market intentionally. Actually, what happened was we were in this other space entirely. And so as these accountants started to reach out, and it was 1 and 2, 3, 4 at first, right? But But after a few months, I mean, we had 50 different accountants that were saying, yeah, if you do this and if you pull this and what we literally said, and I'm this is no exaggeration. We said, look, we have no idea what this market is, does, needs, wants, any of those things. So you're going to have to tell us, to this broad group, which was, 50 and then became 100 and, whatever. And you're going to have to tell us. And so we're going to keep these channels wide open in communication so that we can have some idea of what actually is the pain point. Because if we go in and we're like, let me tell you what your pain point is, and we start prescribing, solutions to this thing, like, I mean, who the heck do we think we are,
Well, the nice part about this is you're able to hear from the accountants what's needed, but you have the business owner's perspective that you can then bring to the same conversation, because that's the perspective that you have.
It really played in a role. And from the very beginning, I was adamant that everything be so simple. Like, there not only was there no code. I mean, obviously, our developers had to code, but if you're ever coming to build something in Reach, we wanted a total no code solution. We wanted something where people could walk in and in seconds, and like, we were still like, you still were counting in seconds that you could be walking out with a report that was powerful. Like, those are just like, those little asks. And some of those we've been able to like knock out of the park, and others we're still working on. But ultimately we wanted something that was so simple. And when these you hear these inspirational quotes or uninspirational quotes where they talk about the hardest things are keeping things simple, or you don't really understand something unless you can explain it to a 5-year-old, or whatever. Like, that became so real to us because we were trying to do something that simplified this whole process that was entrenched in this world of what was becoming this new business intelligence space, where you were doing everything in JSON. You had your data analysts, and that the vast majority of people just don't want to go there. And then on the other side, you're using these dilapidated old systems, the systems that we all kind of grew up with, but that they're just, that we need something more. And so we started to ask those questions, and it really came down to a couple things. One, these accountants, they said to us, look, there's a real problem that our clients have no idea what we're giving them. And on the other side of it, if we try to give them anything but what's canned out of QuickBooks, it takes us obscene amounts of time. So there's there kind of has to be this something that enables the client to get what they want, but it doesn't absolutely steamroll us as the accountants in having to provide this. So we had people that were building it in Excel. They were taking screenshots, putting it in. I mean, it's a nightmare.
Yeah. So what I'm understanding is you've got accounting information that you mentioned, QuickBooks. So you've got your accounting software where this data resides, and you're trying to pull it out and add to it some other key performance indicators, some other KPIs that are going on in the organization, numbers that are being tracked that are perhaps outside of the accounting information. And in doing so, combine those into a single report. Is that a good summation?
And yes, and then make it fun to read, or even just intelligible. Have it. But yeah, that's a perfect summary. It's really taking that accounting data, dissecting it, absorbing the complexity, and then issuing it out to our clients so that they can understand what's happening in their business.
Well, it's making it two things, I think: presentable and useful. If it's presentable, there's an interest to kind of look at it because it's appealing, it's interesting, it looks like I want to understand this. But then when it's useful, I gathered some information from this that allowed me to make a more informed business decision, having used this information to decide a direction to go, a thing to purchase, whatever. So, a time to implement a certain thing. So I like that. So this is a really important conversation because of the next thing that I'm about to ask about. And I think this is something that you can provide some insight on. And it's the fact that in the accounting profession for a number of years now, there's this drive to go beyond the bookkeeping and accounting services to offer now with the accounting some more advisory or coaching type service. How does these reports and so forth complement that effort?
So this again, I mean, you use the word compliment. I'm gonna borrow that word and compliment our audience. It was the accountants. They came to us and they said, as we are delivering these messages, we're trying to communicate in some cases the gravity of how important these numbers are, but a lot of times what they're getting is that these are on the same level of gravity as any other random numbers. And so they needed some way to be able to communicate that information in a way that's really, really helping their clients have actionable intelligence. But the problem really was not that the accountant couldn't figure out how to do that, because I mean we could build it in Excel and we could get all the data. And the problem was that you had to do the exact same thing again next month, because Excel, it's brilliant, but your data is instantly obsolete as soon as you put it in, and getting it out of Excel is challenging. And so the real problem for these accountants, and they came to us like almost with tears in their eyes, where they were like, look, this report just took me 20 hours and I just can't scale if this is what it's going to take. Can you help us build some automations in? And so it wasn't so much that, we came in these white knights and, we said, okay, yeah, we've come to save the day and, rescue the princess. It was more along the lines of us hearing from them that there's this desperate need to solve a problem that effectively made it so that there is no ability to scale.
So I'm hearing two things here. One, as an accounting professional, I'm recognizing that my client needs some information that is beyond just the traditional financial reports. I've got data that I'm tracking, that they're providing, that I have access to, that I can use to complement the financial reports, and I need to collect this. But in collecting it, there's this time and effort to continually collect it and to then kind of compile it for me to be able to present it back to the business owner. And then we're looking at the presentation. Does it look appealing, or is it just Excel sheets printed out? And so I'm capturing the gravity of that, and that's definitely a pain point. As an accounting professional, I just finished this for this client, and I got to do it for the next client.
Right.
I just finished it this month. I've got to do it again next month. And you're getting so much information to where your client is perhaps now becoming dependent on it. They're interested in it. I like this. Can we do it again next month, next quarter? And what you're doing is you're creating this dependency, which we love because now the client's willing to pay for the services, but there's this efficiency and time that's now weighing on us. And I can get then the tears that you're alluding to. So that to me makes sense. It's a pain point that you're resolving for the accounting professional because you're providing now a system, a tool to automate and manage that. But how does it, I want to take it a step further. How does it add value to what the accounting professional is doing as they start to move into the advisory services with their client? What's that value add that's coming to the table?
I love that. I love that question. And this is where it's so much fun for us. So the problem with having to rebuild the house every single month is that you can never really get past a certain point in the construction phase. Like you just can't, because it's there's just so much we could be doing. So you can't really get past a certain point. And a lot of times it's beyond framing, but it's only marginally beyond, the framing. I mean, ultimately you have the house constructed, you can see what it looks like and it's providing the value, but the problem is you have to start again next month. And so what this now does is, because of the way that Reach operates, and this is in no way, I don't want this in any way to seem pitchy or anything, but to really identify that one, we see you as we understand you as accountants are dealing with a particular level of hell that most people don't have to endure. But additionally, we're having to dispose of the work we did last month, and that just made me ill. Like the thought of that just seemed so wrong to me. So what we instead said is there a way that we could still create it in the same environment that we love to create things in? Honestly, we live and die by spreadsheets. In fact, I have a fun little story about that we can get into in a minute.
Okay.
But we live and die by spreadsheets as financial people. And so if I come then into this industry and I'm like, oh, and I need everybody to change. I'm not about to do that, but I need you to change. I need you all to learn DAX or JSON or R or M or whatever coding language, and so that you can start building these things. That's me adding complexity, not absorbing complexity. And so we said, okay, well, is there a way to do it in the spreadsheet? But the problem with the spreadsheet is you don't have live data, and the columns don't change. So next month, this will still be June. And so we said that then, okay, what about now? Is there a way to have the, column 1, 3, 9, and 12 be live data, right from some API connection or something, but that anybody can do it? It doesn't matter who it is. We're capable of providing this. But then again, next month, this column will change from June to July, if I wanted to, or in July to August, and so on. And so once we started to see that and enable that functionality, what was so inspiring for us was observing the things that the accountants then did with that, when now they didn't have to start the construction from the ground. Now they could become these curators, and they could hone in on this perfect solution for that client. But they could still spend the 3, 5, 10 hours. But those hours that they were putting in were ultra valuable because they're delving deep into it.
So I've got to ask, and I'm sure my listeners are wanting to know this. I know we're not trying to do a sales pitch here, but I have to ask. So if I create a template, this template is something that I've created, and using your system I can use, but is there a collaboration of templates? Is there already pre-designed templates? I'm curious as to whether or not there's a collaboration going on there of accounting professionals.
Yeah, that's a good question. So the answer is effectively yes, and you're only going to see more. I'm swearing everybody that's listening to this to secrecy, but you're only going to see more of that over time. But right now we said, okay, let's instead of just putting a jar of water below the pump, let's pre-prime that pump. Let's make sure that as soon as you come, you have a spectrum of reports at your fingertips. What's hard is when we come to a blank sheet, and then we have to bring in everything that we know and bring it all together, and we have to make it look nice, and we have to do all these things. That's really hard to do, especially regularly. I mean, we can have these moments of genius, and we all do, once in a while have these where we have all sorts of energy and we can get all sorts of stuff done. But if we're having to do that consistent, it just becomes so hard. And so, yes, in answer to your question, templates are you can not only create a template for one of your companies, but then you can take that template, that exact thing, in all of the crazy ways that you built it, with all of the spreadsheet functionality that's built in, with all of the design functionality that you may have pulled from Reach or put in yourself or whatever, and then you can apply it to every single one of your clients. And this is the part that makes us so excited, is that it will automatically update with each client's own data.
Very good.
So you're really able to extend your reach. You're able to magnify your own stuff and your own capabilities.
Yeah. Now, this question here is a big one to me, so I'm excited to ask this. You came at this whole experience obviously not as an accounting professional, and you're providing now this resource that accounting professionals are leveraging with their clients. So you run a business, you own the business. What have you benefited from these reports that now accounting professionals are doing? I mean, how has your company changed because of what it is you actually produce?
Right. In essence, do we eat our own dog food?
Yes. That's a polite way of saying it.
Yeah. Not only do we eat our own dog food, I have a person that their whole job is to create and build stuff in Reach and pull in as much information. Part of their responsibility, in addition to that, and this is a bit of a nod to some of the future stuff that's coming out, but part of the stuff that they're doing is also figuring out how to bring in other types of data into Reach and to make it really, really automated and really, really intelligible. Because again, we don't want. I mean, I get that I could figure out how to build some crazy formula of some ratio or something. I can figure that. I'm no dummy. But if there was a way we could just automate that, it would just be so much easier. And then I could come in and I could grab that formula, I could drop it in, some forecast or some scenario or whatever, and I could just drop that in instead of having to build it. Then I can put in my spin on it. Now I can be like, oh, okay, now 80% of this is done, but let me just put a couple of tweaks from my experience as an accountant, not me, of course, but speaking to the audience, but from their experience as the accountants, and then they can start making these tweaks that are specific to the needs of the client. That's where it becomes a game changer for those clients. So now you have clients that are extra sticky. They're getting this report that looks nice. It actually is like they're beautiful, but it's also providing this value that these people are beside themselves because they're getting something that is this trifecta of value for them, and it says nothing. Just FYI, these reports say nothing about Reach reporting. The clients never find out that Reach exists. They are only indicating to the client how valuable the client is and the relationship they have with their advisors.
Very good, very good. So when you're working with accounting professionals, what's a reluctance that they have to use a platform like this and provide this kind of reporting to their clients? What's usually one of the hiccups or frustrations that causes them to not move forward and basically build this kind of relationship with their clients?
Yeah. There's a lot of, and I teach several seminars on this very subject. There's a lot of apprehension. In fact, there's a principle about this. This principle could be the subject of an entire hour of another podcast. But it's a principle where ultimately it comes down to the confidence. But we think. Or accountants have this, they're notorious for this. They think that if they understand something that other people understand that same thing. And I don't mean from an arrogant perspective. I mean from the opposite, where from a humble perspective.
Yeah.
Where they're like, oh, well, it's the principle is fascinating because it's once we learn something, we kind of assume that everybody has that general knowledge. But the opposite is also true, where if we don't know something, we also assume that other people don't know it either, or that it doesn't exist. And so they're effectively cognitive biases. But what we spend so much time doing is telling our accountants how brilliant they are, because a lot of times they don't realize it. And so one of the biggest areas of apprehension that we get is when the accountants are going in and they're saying, oh yeah, but these guys are running this multi-million-dollar company. And I just want to say to them, look, I've been in multi-million-dollar companies where I had bosses that didn't know the difference between net profit and revenue.
Yeah.
And I mean that sincerely. And so a lot of times don't make any assumptions that they know what they're doing at the business. Instead, really, and we talk about this in a lot of our seminars, but really find out who your client is and push yourself past that apprehension of indicating to them some things that you may assume they already know.
Yeah, what I hear you saying is oftentimes as accounting professionals, we assume that what's obvious or what we would assume to be intuitive is what our clients also understand about the financials when they look at them, that when we hand them the information, that their eyes are drawn to the same information that we're looking at, and what we're noticing because we're in our minds calculating certain ratios and we're doing the analysis just glancing at the report, that they also are doing the same. In reality, they don't. And what we need to be doing is adding those calculations and highlighting those things that need to be standing out. And it's all of that it's to me kind of like The Matrix. For those that have seen the movie The Matrix, it's recognizing all those cascading data points that are falling.
Yes. Yes.
That when you look at a stake or when you look at a person and you see them, that there's so much more behind them that make that up. And we just look at the report, and as accounting professionals, we're like, well, it's obvious. It's all right there. But they don't see it that way. That's why they refer to it as accounting being the language of business. It's an alternative language. It's numbers. And for some people, numbers don't make sense. And so as accounting professionals, I've always referred to us as being the interpreters of that language. We're supposed to actually provide that translation that I think so many business owners are longing for, they need. And if they just had that understanding that we can help bring, they can make more informed business decisions. And so this whole conversation is very, very important to me. Let's take it a step further. Obviously, you've got accounting professionals that embrace this idea of going beyond traditional accounting services to offer this CFO advisory type package. What kind of benefits have you seen in your users that it's provided them to take a step forward and offer this additional service and bring in this additional revenue stream in their business? Do you have any thoughts or insights on that?
Yeah, so many. So one of the things that we love to hear is when we get on get some kind of case study going or some, get a testimonial from one of our clients, and they come to us and say, look, this is something that was taking me hours and hours and hours and hours to create. And I've been able to recreate it in Reach. And then every month it takes me just a few minutes to do. That to us is amazing. And at first, honestly, Roger, like our biggest concern at first was people would look at this and be like, oh, our billable hours are plummeting. The opposite is entirely true, because yes, they may be plummeting in you doing this rote menial work, but the hours are actually going up because now the clients are receiving something that they're like, this is interesting, because the accountant is able to download themselves into this to some degree. And at every meeting, they're able to tweak. The CEO they'll sit down with the CEO or the C levels, the C-suite or whatever, and somebody will make a comment, and the accountant will look and be like, wait, do you? And instead of them saying, wait, you don't know what this means, like they won't do that, because they're intelligent and wise, but they will instead kind of take a mental note of that and realize, hey, this person may have a gross misunderstanding of some such and such principle. And so maybe it would be good for me to unpack this in another little dashboard, and it would take them just a couple of minutes to unpack this thing. And then now they can provide that to the client, but then they can take that exact same dashboard and then apply it to any other business who may be in a similar situation. So It's really extended them. It's given them this leverage that they never had before to really, really connect. That's really what it's all about. It's all about the connection with the people making the decision. Otherwise, what the heck is the point of reporting? Like, if we're not getting the connection, we're not getting the understanding. And they're sitting the report on their desk, or they're thumbing through it just because they know that's what they're supposed to do, but they're not actually connecting with the data. That's on us.
Yeah,
and we have to figure out a way to overcome that.
Very good. Got another question for you. I'm wanting to change subjects here. You've run a business, started a business, you're operating a successful company. Have you worked with business coaches or a coach? And if so, what was it that you took from that relationship that helped you run your business?
Yeah, I have a whole lot of people that I would thank that helped me and Roger, you'd be one of them. I've sat in your seminars but each little puzzle piece that comes in has come from mentors all over the place. And so while there hasn't been one, I think I can still answer that question. The building a business is two things. One, really difficult. Like take everything you think it's going to be difficult and then multiply it out, quadruple 10x the amount of money you think you're going to be putting into this, and cut and a tenth the revenue that you're going to be like. It's just really, really hard. So the advice that I'd been given is one to keep reassessing, to constantly pull out the map, so to speak, and reanalyze, okay, where are we going and what are our major goals? And then on the other side of it, it's to have the right people in the right place and build people. Everything that we do is all about our relationships with people. I hate the word networking. I hate it because it just feels grimy. Because every time somebody comes to me with a networking thing, I know I'm being swindled into coming to something where somebody's going to try to sell me something or whatever. But if we could get back to the essence or the actual denotation of the word, it's all about people. It's all about your employees and understanding and pulling out of their brains the things that they know. It's all about your clients and understanding who they know and building relationships with them and serving them and maybe even sacrificing them periodically. And once we start that, once those things start to happen, amazing things can happen in business because people just want to work with other people, and we just want to get to know people that we know and love, and so there's a huge part of that, and that's where we at Reach have tried to take on or at least really enable the communication side of that, because communication of the financials is really hard, but we recognize that it's really just all about people, and so if we can really enable that communication, we can help with that that building that relationship.
I like how you've brought into this the people element, and I think it's applicable just in business in general. So often as accounting professionals, we know a lot, but our clients really don't care how much we know until they know how much we care. And I think there's that rapport that we need to be building with our clients, just because of the fact that curiosity that we can have of our clients, their business, how they make money, that curiosity is going to open doors because it asks questions of the business owner that maybe no one else is asking. And as we, just take that general curiosity and apply it to the clients that we're working with, we'll find out things that no one else is really aware of, and we'll be able to then create now numerical representations of those things to help enhance that part of the business. So
Totally.
I really like this idea of how you're trying to say, business has that hugely personal element, and it's made up of people. So as much as the accounting profession sometimes has that stigma of just being quiet and numbers facing and indifferent to people, it's so not true. In order for us to be successful, we do need to be attentive to the clients that we work with and see them as people. So very good point.
Totally. And we may be introverts.
Yeah.
Everybody comes to me and they're like, "Oh, you're such an such an extrovert." They always say that to me. I'm like, "Well, you don't know me when I go home from work and I go out to my shop and I spend 2 or 3 hours out there solo because I need to decompress too, just like all of us."
Yeah.
One of the things that I've found is just this beautiful way to connect with people is by occasionally just thinking about them. So we could be building a metric, and it could be something as trivial as this. We could be building a metric for one of our clients, and then we could think about one of our other clients and say, "Oh, this might be really interesting for John. He might really find value in that." And then all we do when we're off the clock, we send that over to John. We connect it to John's stuff. It pulls up his data. Reach, hopefully does all the majority of the heavy lifting on that. And then, but you can send that to John and just send a quick message to John. Just say, "Hey, I was just thinking about you and your business. Is this a metric that you would be interested, that you like?" 9 times out of 10, even if it doesn't really resonate, this person then looks at the metrics, at you, at the situation, your relationship, differently.
Yeah.
Because you just did something that was above and beyond. Did it take you all these hours? No, it was just something all you were doing was thinking about him.
Yeah.
And that kind of effect, those things are what makes lifelong relationships with people.
I like that. No, it's very, very true. And I think that's an excellent example for all of us to consider. What can we do that's working for one client that they value and appreciate that we could perhaps share with another that they, even if they don't see the worth in it, they'll at least appreciate the fact we were thinking of them and brought it to their attention. So I like that. Here's another question for you regarding something business related, but I want to bring a little bit more of the personal into it. What's a valuable lesson that you learned from your parents that you feel has been applicable to your business and the success you're having?
So there's a couple that come to mind. One, my dad, he would always beat into my mind, and it relates ultimately to our prior discussion, but it's not what you know, it's who you know. And sometimes that's that little piece of advice is told from a perspective of you need to know the high rollers and the rich dudes and it and I have to believe that in this case that's not what my dad intended at all. What he meant more was it's all about those relationships. So that's one quote, but there is a lot that we can do with following what we love. My mom, bless her heart, she's passed away now. She was absolutely crazy about cleaning. The house was always spotless. I remember countless times walking in the door and she would be on her hands and knees scrubbing the floor. And we got this new white and blue linoleum when I was a little boy, and she loved that floor. And so she wasn't doing it because she was the slave to it. She was doing it because she wanted that thing to sparkle, and so she loved that. And so the lesson that I learned there was, if you're gonna do it right. But follow those little passions that you have. Follow those little things. Make that floor sparkle. And maybe you're the only one that notices, but probably not. Probably there's going to be a lot of people that notice that floor and are just pleased or happy or uplifted by that one silly little thing. So whatever you're doing, do it with your heart and soul. And if it means you have to get on your hands and knees sometimes, do it.
That is great advice. So you mentioned your shop leaving, trying to decompress. I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'm reluctant to use the word balance, but what thoughts do you have on, for lack of a better word, work-life balance? I have another phrase for it, but I already said it, so I figured I might as well continue to use it. So what are your thoughts on that? Because so many people that I know that have their own businesses are theoretically workaholics. We just love what we do and we just can't really step away from it. But how do you manage that with the other responsibilities you have for yourself?
Yeah. So if it's a passion and you love so much what you do that you want to keep doing it, I say more power to you. Like, get your game face on and keep doing it. If, however, like it is for most of us, where we have a whole bunch of things we need to do. I have 4 kids. They need love. Every one of them needs love. I have one of my kids just got cut from the team that she'd been preparing for 2 years, and that was heartbreaking. And so there's times that we need to delve into those little things and really be a part of that. For me, I insist on those moments where I can be a dad, but I really have to come back to those times when I need to and the phrase decompress implies that it's what I do at work is kind of puts too much pressure. It's not that. It's not the case. But a lot of times what I need to do is I need to go into the shop and I need to turn something on the lathe so that I can let those creative juices flow. When we hire someone, we care so much less about their education, about their level of understanding, than we do about their ability to be creative and hardworking. Those two, and if they have a good attitude, those are the 3 things we really, really look for. You can get into open mindset, you can get into all that stuff, but if they have this ability to be creative, they're a shoo-in. We are thrilled to work with them. So when I get those moments where I can go just turn a piece of metal on the lathe, that's when my creative juices start flowing. That's when I can think back to this customer I talked to today, and they were saying this, I wonder if there's a way we could, what would be really cool is if, and that's where all of those things start to happen. So by all means, take the me time. I don't know. This is my crazy advice. And I'm sure Elon Musk would give different advice, but take the time for yourself because it may benefit you so much more holistically and your business because your brain is able to kind of relax and really ponder on those things.
I actually do find that I get answers to some crazy questions when I'm no longer focused on trying to determine the answer and find the answer. It's when I'm off doing something unrelated that all of a sudden that little epiphany comes in and it's the solution or the missing piece that I needed, and voila, it comes because I was too much in the trenches at the time. So yeah, totally get it. So on your lathe, I'm curious, I've done a chess set on a lathe. I just looked at it the other day. I have a baseball bat that I did out of aluminum and brass. Thing's heavy as snot. So, it's crazy.
That's so cool.
But I'm curious, what do you do on your lathe?
Okay, so this is a weird type of lathe. It's actually for aluminum and steel, and it's a metal lathe. And it's so cool for me. I geek out on it. It's been something I'd wanted my whole life, and had to save up the few grand to drop on this thing.
Yep.
But it basically enables me to make all sorts of little things. I love fixing stuff. I love finding a problem and fixing it. And so sometimes you go to fix something and you have this broken piece and it's gone forever. Like there's no way you could ever get that thing, and you're never going to be able to repair this tool or this machine until you have that little piece. And so a lot of times what I end up doing is trying to figure out some way to turn something on the lathe that I can use for that. I just fixed my lawnmower, if you can believe it, because I couldn't live with the fact of this thing is perfect in good condition except for this one plastic piece is broken, and for me I had to figure it out. And so I really do love that sort of stuff, turning those weird little tricky little things to fix the other things.
Well, that's definitely different than me building my aluminum and brass chess piece. It's you're building parts. You're actually seeing what part's broken and you're trying to redesign and create that again. So that's pretty cool. I like that.
And I'm not smart enough to be able to build a chess set. I got to get there. That'll be, next few years I'll have to figure that one out.
You're coming. All right. So no, I actually worked for a summer working on a lathe. You can actually go in and program lathes to where it mechanically goes through and cuts everything, and it has the solvent that's spraying on the metal.
No kidding.
So I for a summer worked when I was much younger in that environment, and then I would go in and with a graphite machine actually smooth off all the edges and everything.
No kidding. That is so cool.
So I'm going to date myself. I was working at that company, and the business owner had just acquired a fax machine. The fax machine was one where it worked where it was a spool of paper. So not sheets of paper, a spool of paper.
Yes.
And
the shiny paper.
The shiny paper. And the way it actually imprinted an image was through heat. And so the image came out, and it wasn't ink. It was through heat that the image would come. And you would tear off the sheets because they're getting these printed diagrams, and they're not just 11 by 17 kind of things. So a lot of them were longer and so forth. But I remember the enthusiasm he had that he could actually get a fax that would have all the parameters that you would need for a project. And he was giddy over this thing. So yes, I am that old, and I remember that
amazing.
day. So there you go.
I love it. That's such cool technology.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was such a great stepping stone for whatever came next.
Well, that thermal paper was pretty creative. It's like, how's this thing getting printed on there? So anyways, all right. So here's another question. You mentioned your 4 children. What do you hope your 4 children are learning or observing watching you run your business?
So I have a lot of friends that are very interesting people, men and women that are doing some really, really fascinating things. And the ones who I find the most fascinating are the ones who have kind of figured out some salary that just keeps them going, and they're in a house that they're happy with, and it's no mansion. It just is, some nice, cute little house, and they then go to work to make the world a better place. That is so cool to me. We had one of the people we hired recently that said, "Look, I don't really care what I make." And he said, I mean it sincerely. He said, "Give me an offer and I'll probably accept it." He said, "But what I do care is that we're doing something that has an effect on the world." And so if I could somehow communicate that to my children, where when they hear or when they're making decisions in the future and they're thinking about their future and their objectives, if they could think about how the effect that they could make. And sometimes that effect just means you helped one business to be able to understand what this driver meant, which means you're going to be able to affect every single person in that business, because the business is now more profitable and everybody, the raising tide raises all boats, so to speak. That to me is where I get all of my excitement. Hence, at the beginning of this, I get so giddy talking about spreadsheets and our little functionality that we've built, because that to me is just rising tide.
Being a father is an amazing thing. So I'm happy to see that your children are able to see you have the success that you're doing, and I appreciate your perspective. Just the idea of making the world a better place. That's a big accomplishment in and of itself. So well said. Justin,
thanks,
here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to summarize a little bit of our conversation here and wrap things up. But as I do so, I want to come back to you for a closing thought and just see what more you'd like to just add as a final footprint to this. But before I go into the summary, I do want to point out that in the episode description, you as the listener can go and find some information here that I think you'll find very, very helpful. First of all, what it is Justin's going to be providing basically a discounted offer to learn more about Reach and take advantage of what it is that he offers as a service to assist you in offering quality advisory services and provide the reports that your clients can benefit from. So I encourage you to go to the episode description to get those details, and from that, give it a try and see what it is that you may be able to do that would further enhance the relationship you have with your clients and how the client can actually utilize the information that you're providing. The other thing that I'd like to point out is we'll actually have their information regarding an ebook entitled In the Black, 9 Principles to Make Your Business Profitable. It is the guide that you need as a business owner to run your business, but also take these principles to your clients and help them actually apply them in their companies so that they can, in fact, be in the black, applying these 9 principles in their business with your help, advice, and suggestions. So go to the episode description, get that information, and do what it is you can today to work on your business. Now, as a summary, let me just kind of point out a few of the highlights that I took from today's conversation. The first being that as accounting professionals, I think we do put a lot of time and energy just because of that creative side that we have of working, let's say, in Excel and just building out some excellent reports, collecting data, analyzing the data, and then after we're all said and done, trying to share that data with our clients. And then after all that time and effort, it's the frustration, the realization of, oh no, next month I'm going to have to do it all over again. Or, oh no, I've got to do it again for this other client. And it's just time and time again, a lot of time and effort learning and creating, but then not being able to repurpose and really use it again and again and again. And so this conversation with Reach, I think, is very helpful because it is a means that we can actually then use and leverage to really optimize all that time, energy, and effort to then time again, month after month, quarter after quarter, help our clients then better see and utilize this information that we're finding and gathering for them. The other thing that I wanted to point out is the advisory work. I am very much a proponent of, as accounting professionals, finding opportunities that we can complement our services with advisory services. It is an additional revenue stream that our clients are willing to pay for. It is a great value add that we can bring to the clients to ensure that they're seeing that there's worth in the relationship that we have with them, that they're that much more needing our involvement in their business to be successful. And so it just further ties us and retains them as clients. The last part is we did have a good conversation about people. At the end of the day, I think it was nice for Justin to point out that all things being said and done, this is a people business. All business is people oriented, whether it's the employees we have or the clients we work with. So we always have to be attentive to that relationship and what we're doing to hone it. And then I appreciate the fact that as a father, he comes home, he does decompress, but at the same time sets a great example for his children. And I think that's something we always need to keep in mind. Who's watching us? Who's learning from what we do? And what's that example or let's say standard we're setting for everyone? So great conversation. I appreciate you, Justin, sharing all that with us. Do you have a final thought?
I have one it's kind of a double-sided thought, but it's one that's kind of affected me in my life. And the first one that we've all heard 100 times is from the professional athlete, a hockey player, Wayne Gretzky. I skate not to where the puck has been, but to where the puck is going to be. And so we hear that and we're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, obviously, like who would skate to where the puck has been? But there's another quote from actually another professional athlete in a very different sport on a very different continent that made a huge effect on me. And it was Gary Lineker, a soccer player, or he would hate that I called him a soccer player, a football player.
That's funny.
Yeah. So he said, the big thing is everybody says it's being in the right place at the right time. But it's more than that. It's being in the right place all the time. Because if I make 20 runs to the near post and each time I lose my defender and 19 times the ball goes over my head or behind me, then one time I'm 3 yards out, the ball comes to the right place and I tap it in. Then people say, right place, right time. And I say, no, I was there all the time. I love that quote. And it's a good indication of what we need to be doing in our personal lives, in our business lives, and really in the way that we want to affect people, how we want to grow ourselves personally, and so on. But it's being in the right place all the time, and great things will happen as we get better and better and better, and we'll be standing in the right place at the right time.
Wow, that was really good. I don't know why, but it brought to mind, do what is right and let the consequences follow is what I'm thinking here. So
For real.
There you go. All right. Well, Justin, this has been amazing. I thank you for your time. Let me just kind of wrap this up by thanking all of the listeners for listening in to today's episode. As for the subscriptions, if you've not yet subscribed, please do so. Also, leave us a comment. We'd love to get your reviews and your input on these episodes that we're doing. I also invite you to listen to our other episodes. We've had numerous episodes with a variety of experts and guests addressing a number of topics that you can benefit from. So go back and actually listen to those that apply to your business where you sit today, whether it be marketing, selling, technology, offering quality services, pricing, just the gamut of things that you need to be aware of as a business owner to, in fact, have the premier accounting firm in your area. For more information about these concepts, these principles, or applying them in your business, also feel free to reach out to us. You can contact us at Universal Accounting Center, reaching us at 801-265-3777, or you can visit us online at universalaccountingschool.com. Do take care. Have a great day. Be safe out there. And always remember, accounting success is universal.